My name is Chef Jacqueline Orak, and I am the Department Chair for the Culinary and Hospitality Division here at the Culinary Institute of the South at Technical College of Lowcountry here in beautiful Bluffton, South Carolina. I'm very excited to be bringing to you a mini-series about bread making. We will be teaching you how to do a 4-strand braid with the classic brioche dough, typically done with the challah bread, but with it being an enriched dough, we can do that. We're going to show a few steps of that, and then the final product, a few tips and tricks for practicing of that. These videos are made possible from our sponsors. I would like to thank the South Carolina Restaurant and Lodging Association, as well as Ecolab, for giving us the time to do this, and we appreciate all of their support, and I'm very excited to bring you all the tips and secrets. Stay tuned. We are going to start off the bread making process. I've actually already made some brioche dough that has bulk fermented overnight. So now we're going to be in the shaping phase. Well, before shaping, we're actually going to get into the measuring phase. We're going to portion our brioche dough out, and the shape that I'm going to teach you, one of the classic shapes, is going to be that 4-strand braid, and I'm also going to show you how to do the classic brioche tête. Just for your information and understanding, brioche is an enriched dough that has a high percentage of butter and eggs incorporated into it. So it needs some sort of form, or as in a braid, or it needs to be baked inside of a pan because it's so heavy with all the enriching ingredients of, again, the butter and eggs, that it helps it hold a shape in the baking process. So before we get into the portioning out the size that we need to create the 4-strand braid, let's talk about the mise en place of what we need to get this started. So if you look over here at my station, I have a portion scale that I have covered in plastic wrap that I will be putting and weighing out the dough on. I have some dusting flour that I will dust the table so that the dough does not stick. I have a bench scraper, and that I will use to be dividing the dough, not pulling or tearing it. I also have my sheet pan is ready to go after I form and do my braiding and the whole process, that it is ready to go, and then I will actually be then moving into the proofing stage. So let's get started. I have two 2-pound dough balls of brioche dough. I have it covered because I want to make sure that the plastic wrap that is around it keeps it from drying out, and it bulk fermented overnight in the refrigerator. One thing with butter in the dough is that in a warm environment it can melt out, so you want to be doing this in a nice cold, cooler environment. So we're going to take some dusting flour, and I'm going to lightly, it's almost like I'm skipping stones, rolling dice, lightly dust the table surface I am working on. As you can see, I am throwing it, I am not popping it down, it hits the table and flies, all right? Flour is a good thing, but it also is bread's enemy. So really we want to work with as minimal dusting flour as possible. So I'm going to take my first dough ball here, and we're going to learn how to do a 4-strand braid. So that means I'm going to divide this 2-pound ball, which 2 pounds is 32 ounces. I need 4 strands, so 32 divided by 4 is 8 ounces. So I need to make 4 8-ounce balls. So I'm going to split this using my bench scraper in half. I'm going to start to guesstimate, split this in half, and then this in half, and then I'm going to weigh each item on my scale. The scale, as you can see here, I'm turning and you see the numbers moving. I need to tear out the scale, so I'm going to line up the 0 with this red prong here, and that's going to tear it and bring my weight to a total of 0. This scale can hold a capacity of 5 pounds, so we will be only weighing 8 ounces to see our 8-ounce balls, and it's broken up into half-pound increments. So 0 to a half a pound is actually, that is our 8-ounce mark. The 1 then moves to the 1-pound mark, or 16 ounces. So when I place my dough ball, again, I'm going to get down just to make sure that this is on, tear it on 0. All right, let's see what we got here. So I'm about 8.5 ounces on this one. All right, let's see what this guy is. This guy's only 6 ounces, so he needs a little bit more. This one feels heavy. This is 9 ounces, so I know I'm gonna have to cut from this one. And this guy is, oh, perfect, 8 ounces on the dot. So he is good. I'm gonna leave him to the side. I'm gonna take the one that I need to shave off of, put my little 6 ouncer back, all right? Now we're about up to 6.5 ounces. Add a little bit more, 7 ounces. He was a little over, all right? So we went 4 8-ounce dough balls. 7.5. Right. Just take a little bit more from here. All right, 8 ounces on this guy. Just slightly under, let's see. Just a little over, so we are good. We've got 4 8-ounce balls here, and I'm gonna go ahead and do my second. We're gonna practice 2 strands for you today. So I'm taking my plastic off, since I have these now exposed, and you can see what bulk fermentation, you can see all of the yeast, all of this beautiful flavor fermentation going on in here, and that is exactly what we want to see when we are producing bread. I wish you could smell this yeasty, beautiful yeasty flavor we got going on here. So now, since I've weighed those out, I'm going to cover so I don't get a skin, and I'll just show you again here so that you understand. This is a full 2 pounds of dough, okay? So I'm gonna split this 2-pound dough into, again, 4 8-ounce strands, because we're going to do 2 4 braid loaves. All right, so this guy, let's see, half, 8 ounces, he's good. Right on the money. Just a little off, let's see this guy. A little heavy, so I gotta take from him to give to that guy, 1/2 ounce. All right, yep, boom, there we go. And just a little over, and that's okay. So now I'm gonna take this, my plastic wrap, and cover it, all right? So now I can actually remove my scale, because I'm not gonna be needing that anymore. What's very important is to learn proper sanitation, as well as clean as you go, making sure you remove everything off the table that is not necessarily needed at this point. I'm gonna leave my bench strip here because I might need it later. So again, I'm going to lightly dust my work surface. Again, it's gonna be like throwing, skipping stones, and hopefully you can see that the flour shifts and moves as it hits the table. It doesn't just stay in one spot, and it lightly coats, versus I'm gonna go over here on the edge. So if I drop it like this, it's like one big pile, okay? Again, flour is good, but flour is also an enemy. All right, let's get going. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to start to shape my strand. So I'm going to push down my dough, and I'm gonna make it into a log shape, because I'm gonna start to shape my braids here. And I'm going to lightly bring them in. All right. And when I roll this, I'm gonna roll it to no longer than 12 to 14 inches, because you gotta remember, this is only 8 ounces of dough. All right, so I'm going to try to also, using the palms of my hands and my fingertips, I'm lightly pushing, and I'm working from the center out, okay? I'm not pulling the dough, I'm not forcing the dough. The dough is doing all the work. I'm just applying a little bit of pressure, and I'm also trying to keep it shaped nice and even and proportioned, all right? So as you can see, when I roll it and I try to stretch it a little bit, if you see that it starts to want to shrink back and contract, that's telling you that the gluten in the mixing process that we developed to give it the strength and the elasticity to allow us to do all the shaping, it's telling you that this dough needs to relax. So we're gonna put this at the top, Then we're gonna take the next ball and I'm going to get another piece of plastic wrap. Keep everything, again, covered because we don't want a skin to form on our bread, all right? So again, put a little bit flour. I'm gonna push the stove down. All right. Again, working on shaping the first log. Again, using my fingertips to work with this, all right? He's being a little bit stubborn, so I'm going to stop working with him. I can feel him pulling. I'm gonna put him back. I'm gonna move to the next one. Round it out a little bit. Just in flour. Working with, one more time, the palms of my fingers and lightly putting pressure on the dough to pull it. Actually not pull it, I don't want to tear it, having it work to its capability. All right, again, as you can see, he's shrinking, he's contracting. So I'm gonna put him down and have him rest, the glute to rest. I'm gonna do one more ball. Back to the first one. I'm gonna just go a little bit longer. And I feel this is a good length. So I'm gonna actually put him here for now. So I'm not gonna do my final before we work on the braid. I'm gonna get all of my strands the same length, again, keeping them covered, working in the order that you started with. So the first one should be the last one. There we go. Now that he's rested, you can see he's starting to roll and wanting to be shaped more. There we go. see that the 5, 6, I don't believe is more than 10 minutes at all, that each strand was allowed to rest, allow the gluten that is, again, developed in the mixing stage, allowing you to then continually stretch this to your desired length that will be used for shaping this braid. All right. Feel this should be pretty good. Last but not least, a little bit more flour to start to stick. And using my fingertips, very gentle pressure, working from the center out to roll my log here. Trying to keep it nice and even as well. Okay. There you go. All right, we've got one set completed. We'll be right back for the actual forming of the braid. All right, so we have all of our strands stretched out and ready to go to start the braid. And we're gonna do just the classic, again, 4-strand braid. And it's a simple process, but practice always makes perfect. And I'm going to show you a trick how to practice it at home versus having to make the classic, the 4-strand braid is with the challah bread, but we are practicing it on, again, what I made today, the brioche bread. Again, which is nice, rich, and buttery. Very exciting. So I'm going to start off with my 4 strands, right? I'm going to put them all, attach them at the top. Okay. So I'm going to bring the tips together. Okay. I'm going to pinch it together at the edge because we'll tuck it under and fix it, make it pretty at the very end. Okay. And there's 2 ways to do this. You can go, I know when we read a book, we go from left to right. I braid right to left, but you can do it either way. I'm gonna do it right to left, and then when I do my second braid, I'll do it right to left, versus, excuse me, left to right, again. So how we do a 4-strand braid is we start with the alphabet. We have, this is strand A, B, C, D, okay? And it goes A over B, C over D, and then D over A. All right, so we're gonna get started. And I'm gonna say it out loud and go slow. So we're picking up strand A over strand B, okay? And we're gonna keep it as tight as we can. So now this is B and this is A. This is C and this is D. C over D, right? And then D over A. All right. Nice. All right. So then we start again. A, B, C, D. A over B. C over D. D over A. All right. Again, A, B, C, D. A over B, C over D, D in my hands over A. You can kind of see, I think, the braid is starting to form. A, B, C, D. A over B, C over D, D over A. A over B, C over D, D over A. A over B, C over D, D over A. Okay. A over B, C over D, D over A. I'm gonna try to squeeze one more out of it. A over B, C over D, D over A. And then actually, I'm going to tuck under, pinch. And I'm gonna take my other end, tuck under, and pinch. And here you can see our 4-stranded braid. I'm going to carefully pick it up. I have my prepared sheet pan with a piece of parchment paper. I'm going to carefully pick it up, lift it, and I'm actually going to put it on the diagonal form so that I have room for my second braid. I'm actually going to move them over just a smidge because this is going to proof overnight. All right, let's try this braid one more time. All right, so you can see it's covered so it doesn't dry out. I'm going to put my 4 strands together. Bring him over here. Okay, going to carefully kind of pinch and twist. Again, we will fix it at the end. Now I'm going to do the reverse for those of you who like left to right. A, B, C, D. All right. So I'm going to take A over B, C over D, D over A. All right, we're going to try to keep it as tight as we can. Again, A over B, C over D, D over A. A over B, C over D, D's in my hand, over A. A, B, C, D. A over B, C over D, D over A. Again, A over B, C over D, D over A. A over B, C over D, D over A. A over B, C over D, D over A. One more time. A over B, C over D, D over A. I'm going to squeeze one more. A over B, C over D, and then D over A, and I'm going to pinch and twist under. Okay, here we go. I take my other end, I'm going to pinch, kind of twist, and tuck under, so you get a nice shaped 4-strand braid. I'm going to pick it up, carefully lift it on again to my prepared piece of parchment paper. And now this will go into what is the stage of final proof. And you can either put this in a proof box, but I'm going to go for the maximum proofing as I like to produce maximum flavor. And we're going to do the stage called retardation, where I'm going to wrap this in plastic wrap, and I'm going to stick this in our refrigerator and let it slowly proof overnight. So this, when I say proof, this is in the beginning stage was bulk fermentation, and now we're proofing our individual braid. So this individual loaf is going to double in size overnight versus me putting it in a proof box, which will make it go faster. I want to create a slow development of flavor. So I'm going to now carefully take my plastic wrap, and I'm going to wrap my bread. I'm not going to wrap it too tight so that I allow for room to proof. And I'm also going to make sure that there is no air to be able to get into it to create a crust. Okay, I'm going to wrap the other side nice and carefully. And then I'm going to stick this again into my refrigerator. And overnight, it is going to slowly double in size, because the cold, what it does to the yeast, it slows it down. It doesn't kill it, it doesn't do anything to it except that it slows the fermentation process, the doubling in size. So So I have this nicely wrapped to allow for growth, and I'm gonna stick this in the refrigerator. Stay tuned for a treat of how to practice this braid at home. Braid making is an art, and learning how to do proper formation of braids or shapes is so important because that's what makes it special. So we've learned how to do the 4-strand braid, and again, as I tell all my students and anyone that I work with, that practice makes perfect. And I've come up with how can I practice making the 4-strand braid at home? Well, guess what? You don't always have to bake fresh bread to practice a skill. But you always can if you want to, absolutely. But if you're short on time and you just want to practice, I've come up with practicing the 4-strand braid with using our side towels. So if you take a look here, I have 4 side towels, I have 2 rubber bands, I have myself and my 2 hands, and that's really all that you need. All right, you can do this in bed, you can do this at a table, you can do this watching TV, but then you also want to make sure that you're focusing and thinking, because it's the steps of A over B, B over C, D over A. See, I even have to think about it at times. So I'm just going to show you how I create my towel strands. I want to make it as long as possible. So you want to make sure that they are 4 identical length towels. And these are just the side towels that we use here at school. And I fold them in half like this, and then I carefully roll them as tight as I can to keep the seam down. All right, and then you see here, now I have all 4 towels at the same length as what we always try to do for when we're braiding. I take my first rubber band and I connect the 4 at the top, right? Because this would be the stage where we would pinch all 4 of the logs together. And then I'm going to separate out, again, my 4 strands, okay? Wow, look at that. It looks like challah or the brioche that we just did, and we're going to play the game of how to do a 4-strand braid, okay? I go left to right again, A, B, C, D, all right? But you can also go, go right to left. You can go left to right, whichever suits your fancy. So again, A, B, C, D, or A, B, C, D. So I'm gonna go, this is my strand, A, B, C, D. So A over B, all right? C over D, here's D. This goes over A, all right? And we want to keep it nice and tight as if we were doing it with the real bread. So then this brings it back to this original 4 letters, A, B, C, D. Pick up A over B, C over D, and then D over A. Okay, gonna do it again. A over B, C over D, D over A. Okay, we're gonna be able to do it one more time. A over B, C over D, D over A. Then I'm gonna bring my strands together, and if you want to see the completed loaf, tie it off with your second rubber band. All right, and you can kind of move it around because again it is a towel, and there you go. There is your classic challah shaped or brioche, as we did in this case that we made live. But this is the way to practice a 4-strand braid. Again, you can do it at home with bathing towels, side towels work, kitchen towels, anything. But again, remember, practice makes perfect. Good luck.